Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
From one billionaire to another. Elon Musk is a bright guy. He's the man behind Tesla, SpaceX, and a co-founder of PayPal. He's a visionary thinker. He has a huge following. And today he said something that is either brilliant or balmy. I incline to the latter, but you judge. He said that we are that we are almost certainly computer-generated entities living inside a more advanced civilization's equivalent of a video game. His point is that... Well, actually, I don't think I need to explain this point because it has been made before by Nick Bostrom, a professor at Oxford University, director of the Future of Humanity Institute, and Nick is with me. Nick, just explain why this balmy idea might even be plausible.
Well, the thought is that if technology continues to develop, then in the future, perhaps the distant future, civilization will have the ability to create entirely realistic virtual worlds with simulated observers in them. Not just create one or two of these simulations, but such a mature civilization could run millions or billions. Right.
So you could have a world where everybody has a little planet of their own with a few million people in or whatever.
And then you got to ask yourself, if for every person with human-like experiences that live in the original history, there are millions of observers with human-like experiences that live in these simulated worlds, like which one are you more likely to be? And so that then is the thought that I think Musk had.
Okay, so it's I can see that it's a possibility. Now you have to get to the bit that makes it even an interesting possibility, or a possibility likely enough that this could really be. And I think Elon Musk did say it's almost certain.
Yeah, I mean, so that part I would disagree with. But there is an argument for taking this seriously. And the argument, the simulation argument, tries to show that at least one of three propositions is true. It doesn't tell us which one. So the first is that almost all civilizations at our current stage of development go extinct before they reach technological maturity. So that's the first possibility. Right. The second is that among civilizations that do reach technological maturity, there is a very strong convergence. They all lose interest in creating these kinds of ancestor simulations. They just all decide to do different things.
So either there are no advanced beings, or there are advanced beings who don't play the funny games.
Or the third possibility, which
they do play the games.
And then the simulation hypothesis becomes extremely likely. If most people with our kinds of experiences are simulated, conditional on that, I think we should think.
So one of those three sort of has to be true, doesn't it? But wouldn't advanced civilizations perhaps have other forms of entertainment? Or maybe, just maybe, we haven't got the imagination to think about how advanced civilizations will entertain themselves because we haven't reached that level of advancement
I mean, that certainly is conceivable. But there might be other reasons than entertainment for creating these kinds of simulated realities, maybe for the scientific study, trying to figure out how other civilizations might behave if you should encounter them. There might be other reasons as well. And if it really is the case that any one of these mature civilizations could create millions of these simulations, then only a very, very small fraction would have to decide to deploy their resources for this end, even if most have other forms of entertainment and are not interested in the scientific study of the past. No, so it will only take 1 in a million that decides to do this, and they would still dominate.
They would still dominate because we'd be so cheap to be produced in virtual form. What probability would you put on this scenario that we are just sitting here in a video game of an advanced civilization?
I tend to dodge that question. I get asked it a lot. I mean, what I do think is that it should be assigned a substantial probability. I think there are these three propositions. I believe in the simulation argument. I think at least one of these three is true. We don't have strong enough evidence to pick one, so we should assign some probability to each one of them.
Does this matter, Nick? Because what is the difference between the scenario in which we are these virtual creatures in a game and the one where we're not? Is there any way, in fact, which we would ever know, find out, or would it make any difference?
We don't know yet whether it might make a difference. It would depend on the kind of simulation we were in, the reasons for creating the simulation. So unless you have some theory about why these post-human beings chose to build their simulation one way or another, it's hard to tell. But there are possibilities that enter that wouldn't exist otherwise. Like, for example, the world could pop out of existence suddenly if somebody switches off the simulation. That presumably couldn't happen if we're in basic physical reality.
Right. Let me tell everyone you can read more about this on the web.
I've been getting